question that's often asked is how much compost you need to put on your soil just to keep this beautiful ecosystem growing and thriving. And it's a question, it is a question that I thought about long and hard when I took this ground on. And it kind of depends on how your soil is when you get your ground or get your allotment. So if your soil is very depleted and it's really sandy and it's dry and it's got no structure, it doesn't hold together, when you dig it, it just breaks apart, then you need to try and get as much organic matter onto that soil as possible to build up the microbes, to build up the fungi and bacteria in your soil, for the fungi, for the bacteria to pull all the micronutrients and macronutrients, to pull them all together to form a beautiful crumb structure with all the hyphae running through it. If you can put 3 inches on your ground that first year when you get it, 3 inches of decent compost, horse manure. Be careful with horse manure, as I've already said, because of the pyralid weed killers in it. Cow manure is really good if you can get any of that, or just made compost. Failing that, just mulch what you can. Use vegetation as a mulch, as a compost to break down, or put the vegetation in a compost bin and break it down. If you've never composted the ground or it's not been composted, try and get at least 3 inches in over 2 years if you have to do that. If you can only put 1 inch a year on, keep putting 1 inch on for 3 years, and then you can reduce the amount that you need, because these living roots also provide your soil with fertility. So these plants now are pumping sugars, glucose, carbon, and in some cases nitrogen into the soil, fixing it for the bacteria and fungi to live on. Over the past 3 years, I have probably put about 4 inches of compost on this ground. That's all. It's not a massive amount, and you can see the growth here. Everything is absolutely thriving. So now I have a very, very simple formula as to how much compost I put on the ground, and I am going to show you now. And my formula is this. So let's just take this bed for instance, because it covers all the beds really. So what we have here is some cauliflowers, and then we have got some broccoli. Bed split in half, and a few French beans on the end, and there was some lettuce in. Most of this vegetation, i.e. these leaves, will be taken into the compost bin, put into the compost bin and broken down. And when I look at this bed, I estimate that there will be 1 wheelbarrow full of leafy material and stems that come from above ground. Now the roots of these plants will get left in ground, so nothing is taken from the ground. The only thing that will be put back is this vegetation, and if there is 1 barrow full of vegetation above ground in this bed, when that has been composted, that'll reduce by 2/3, so there will be 1/3 of a wheelbarrow of compost that's been produced from the vegetation in this single bed. Now I've also got to account for the cauliflowers and the broccoli which I take from this bed, and in that case there's not going to be very much. There's maybe going to be 1/3 of a barrow full of cauliflowers, broccoli and beans, if that, but I'll count it as 1/3 because I am taking those cauliflower heads and the broccoli heads and the beans away from the site. They are not getting returned, so what I have to do is I have to replace that with material that I have to bring in from the site. So what I do, I go around the site and I take away from other allotments all the vegetation that people don't want. A lot of it is vegetable matter. That's my preferred stuff. In the past I have taken absolutely everything, all kinds of weeds, anything that's been available to me. And over the course of a year, guys, I would say I bring in 20 or more wheelbarrows full of material from other allotments. So if you think about it, I've got roughly 20 beds. I think there's 20 or 21 beds, so I'm bringing in a barrow full of material to break down in the compost bins to put back, which again, 1 barrow full equals 1/3 of a barrow of compost. So that's 1/3 of a barrow of compost I can put on every bed from the extra material I'm bringing in. So that puts back the losses I'm taking. A third of a barrow is one full barrow of green material, which I've already collected this year from around the site, comfrey, all kinds of stuff. You can see by putting one barrow on every single bed that I've got here, 16 by 4, that is more than enough compost to keep this ground healthy, happy and growing really good crops. It does amaze me that these 3 beds grew this massive amount of sweet corn this year. Around 70 cobs. I've had a final tally, plus the ones I've already eaten. It also grew broad beans as the plants were coming up. The broad beans were harvested. It's grown all these courgettes. There's actually a couple of peppers now, which might do something or might not. They were spare plants I'd just put in between the corn. The abundance from this soil is purely down to the compost that is applied every year and keeping roots in the soil so that these plants continue feeding the microbes. So guys, when I talk about good compost, this is what I mean. Look at this material. It's almost like it's come out of a bag. A complete and utter mixture of everything growing on the allotment has been reduced into this wonderful material. Absolutely stunning. And I was saying, so that, let me just put a bit back into there. And this is my formula in action. So I don't know what size that pot is. Would you say that's about a 2 litre pot? I'm not actually sure. But I know there's not quite a shovelful there. And how much ground will that plant pot full of compost cover? I will show you. So here we go. Let's scatter that compost out. And there we go guys, that's how much compost I put on my soil. Just like that, that's the area it covers. 2 feet by 2 feet, 4 square feet. So you can see just on this area here, which is about 4 foot by 4 foot, it almost is 4 foot by 4 foot, I will need 4 plant pots. And that will cover 16 square feet. Very, very little when you've got really good, beautiful quality compost like this. You really do not need much of it. If you was using what I'd call a poorer grade of compost, would be something like, you know, rotted down horse manure. And I regard that as inferior really, because it hasn't got everything that this vegetation has got in it. It's lacking in certain things. So I would say if you're putting that on, you would need at least 3, maybe you would need at least 2 to 3 of those to cover the same area. So guys, it's important to make good compost, and it is not difficult at all. I hope that helps some of you out with regard to how much compost you need. I mean, look at this growth, absolutely amazing from just that much compost. But it's more important to put less amazing quality compost on. The quality of compost really matters. Have a look back at some of my other videos. I've got a whole playlist on compost making. I've gone over compost making so many times. Just have a look at that, and the longer you meet, you can produce compost in as little as 12 to 14 weeks. It's not perfect, but it is very usable. The longer you can leave that, maybe for even another 2 or 3 months, going through the cooler stage of composting, the better the compost becomes, until ultimately the worms move out, and then you know it's ready to go onto your soil. All right guys, thanks for watching. I will see you soon. Bye for now.